Okay, so let's just talk about, we have cost functions, revenue functions, and profit functions. And before I go into actual algebra, let me go over that you could actually have fixed costs and variable costs. And it's actually true that you can have fixed revenue and variable revenue. Fixed revenue might be something like you give somebody a retainer, and so they're going to keep this $1,000 no matter what happens. But generally, you get revenue per unit sold, or per person, or per ticket, something like that. And so really, generally, we're looking at some sort of variable revenue. And the profit is equal to your revenue minus your cost. And remember, this cost is total cost. That's equal to your variable cost plus your fixed cost. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So, for example, if it's a cost, per unit or per person, then that's your variable cost. And it's usually like it costs, I don't know, $1.50 per person per X. Whereas your fixed cost might be something like rent, insurance, some sort of machinery that you just have to buy no matter what, no matter how many you're going to produce. And I realize that there can be some that are not quite so. You might say like, well, you need 2 machines after you have 100 people, but we're not going to get that complicated. It's like we're just going to say, oh, machinery, that's probably a fixed cost, insurance, rent, paying for an accountant, etc. Okay, let's say you have the following. It costs $1,000 to rent a hall, $400 for the decor. For the catering, that's $20 per person. These are all costs. And then we say something like, okay, we're going to sell tickets for $40 a ticket. This is revenue. And so I want to write an equation that represents this for the cost. Let's do it a cost function and a revenue function. So first we'll do costs. And we have $1,000 to rent a hall, $400 for decor. That's $1,400 in fixed cost. No matter like how many people we come, we're just gonna do that. And then depending on how many tickets we'll sell, we will pay per person for the food. So we're gonna say X is the number of people. So however many people we have times $20, that's the variable cost right there. Then I want to look at revenue, and here we have the revenue. And for my revenue function, I have $40 per ticket or per person, so $40 times X. Let me rewrite this on the next page here. Okay, so by the way, we could also find the profit function right now because I know profit is revenue minus cost. So if I plug this in, this is 40x minus 1400 minus, let me write it this way, minus 1400 plus 20x. But if I distribute my negative, this is 40x minus 1400 minus 20x. All right, so my profit function, if I put my like terms together, is 20x minus 1400. So I could graph these, and I could also find I could also try and find the break-even point. Okay, so I'm going to graph this on sort of an XY axis where X is going to be the number of tickets sold, and then Y is either the cost or the revenue in dollars. So looking, it has to be like sort of at least 1,400, but I just kind of play with some numbers before I start putting units on my graph, and I decided to go from about 400 to 2,800. I might have to decide on something a little bigger later, and I'll just go from about 0 to 40. So let's first graph revenue, and then we graph cost. The break-even point is where the revenue equals the costs, or I could also say revenue minus costs equals 0, which means the profit is equal to 0. I also know from a moment ago that the profit is equal to negative, well, I think we wrote it as the following, 20x minus 1400. So if I make that equal to 0, I have 20x equals 1400, or x equals 70. So my break-even point is if I sell 70 tickets. And if I sell 70 tickets, and if I can see that on the last page here, if I sell 70 tickets, then I'm going to make $2,800, or sorry, that my revenue will be $2,800, but my revenue minus my costs will be how much I make. So let's see, my profit is going to be 0 if I sell 70 tickets. And you can see if I just plug in 20 times 70 minus 1400, I can see that I'll get a 0 profit. So you can see above that, I'll have, like if I sell 80 tickets, then I'll definitely have a profit. And basically, if I sell 60 tickets, then I'll have a loss.